Hey, thanks for stopping by. My name is Tyler, and today I have some super exciting news to share with you guys. If you follow my LinkedIn, you'll probably already know what this video is about, but I'm going to make a dedicated video for it too. So, before we go over that, I do want to cover a few other things. Apologies for my inconsistent upload schedule. I feel like I say that a lot because my uploads are just kind of sporadic, but I've had a crazy last couple of weeks. Lots of things have happened, all of which deserve their own videos, and I just haven't, I guess, had the time to record videos. But here we are. So, moving on from that, I hope you guys are enjoying the new setup. I do have an actual camera and microphone, and I even have this fancy light here. Look at that. So, quality should be up marginally from my old setup, which I kid you not was actually just my phone. The front facing camera on my phone is what I used to record with, and just the built in mic on my phone. So I hope you guys can hear and see a difference. Other than that, thank you guys for 450 subscribers. I cannot believe that many people want to kind of follow me on this journey I'm on of going into the tech industry with no degree, despite what people told me when I was in school. So yeah, I thank you guys for sticking around. If you enjoy and if you're new and you want to follow my journey, please subscribe, leave a comment. You guys know I always respond to my comments. So yeah, those are kind of the things I wanted to get out of the way. But what's our exciting news? Well, yesterday I took my AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate exam. And this morning I woke up to an email from Credly and I passed. So I am super, super excited to have passed this exam on the first try. It took me about 5 or 6 months to study and get it done because I don't have a ton of time to study. I show up to work every day like an hour and a half early to provide that time to study, because I do work 3 jobs and I have very long days, so I have to use the time when I can find it. So probably like 10 hours a week of studying-ish. But I wanted to talk about kind of how I felt before the exam, what it was like during the exam, and then briefly what all I used to study. I won't be going super in depth with which study materials are beneficial and why, and maybe which ones you should stay away from. I will make a separate dedicated video for that, but for this one I just wanted to kind of give a rundown of everything I used. So starting off, let's talk about how I felt before the exam. I actually have a clip I want to play first. This was me in the car in the testing center parking lot like an hour before the exam. So I'll play that and I'll be right back. Okay, so here we are. I am parked outside of the testing center right now, about to take my SAA C03 Solutions Architect exam. I am unbelievably nervous. It's not new. I'm always super nervous before these tests. I never really feel like, oh, I'm gonna absolutely crush it. I got this in the bag. But yeah, I'm super nervous, kind of like always, but yeah, I don't feel like there's a large chance I'll fail it, because I did do really well on all of my practice tests. Been studying for about 5 months, so I think there's a good chance that I do pass it. That'd be awesome if I did. In the case I don't, it's okay. Failure is always an option. I can always study more and retake it. It'll be a great LinkedIn post either way, because I think it is important to talk about what happens if things don't go to plan, if you don't pass your cert on the first time, because you might not always pass in the first time. So regardless what happens, I'll be okay. It won't be the end of the world, but yeah, obviously we're hoping to pass. So let's see, it's 11 a.m. right now and my test is at 12, so I showed up super early. I pretty much always do, just because I can't bear to sit at the house the mornings of my tests. I'd rather sit here in the parking lot than at my house, because, well, I know I'll make the exam on time if at least I'm here super early. So yeah, hopefully I pass it. Once again, if I don't, it's okay. I'll still make a video on it, but yeah, fingers crossed. I will see you guys on the flip side. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I'm sure it gave you a good vibe for how I felt. I mean, I was shaking like a leaf because I'm just always like that. I mean, out of the 4 certification tests I've taken and passed on the first try, I don't think for one of them I really was like, oh, I'm gonna crush it. I've got this in the bag. So I'm always super nervous before these tests, but we passed anyway. So before the test, I was super nervous. I know I'm not the only one that gets like that. So let's talk about during the test and the technical difficulties that happened in the testing center. So this is the first time I've run into this, but there were actually significant problems prior to my test. So like I said, I showed up an hour early because that's just what I do for my tests. I cannot stand to sit around the house, and I like to have copious amounts of time to make sure I'm on time for these tests. But I'm there like an hour early. My test was at noon, and I showed up to the testing center at like 11. So I walk up to the testing room, or not the testing room, the suite that this company had for their testing center. And I'm in the lobby, and the guy asked me, hey, do you just want to start now? And I said, sure, because that's just kind of what I do. If he offers to let me start it early, I always do. It doesn't give me like extra time or anything. I just would rather get it done. So I say yes, and I sign all my waivers and sign in and do all that fun stuff. And then he brings me back to the testing room, and he sits me down with my little whiteboard and dried up dry erase marker, and on the computer there was an error message from Pearson. It couldn't reach its like Pearson Discovery authentication server or something. So he pulls me back out of the testing room and back into the lobby, and he's on the phone trying to figure out what's wrong. And I sat there for an hour, like a full hour, waiting for these guys to fix it. It actually helped kind of calm my nerves a little bit because I got to just talk to the guy next to me for a while and all that fun stuff. So it actually helped calm me down, but it also made me a little bit worried that because there were technical difficulties before my test, I was worried that Amazon might, I don't know the word they use, but basically fail my test anyway because there were technical difficulties. So a little bit scary there, but it proved to not be an issue, so that's good. So now let's talk about the actual like tests. So I finished mine pretty early. I had like half an hour left at the end, and I scored an 849. Yes, 849. So finished super early on my exam, and I scored pretty high, so that's good. While I was taking the test, I honestly had no idea if I had passed or failed it after I had finished, because there were a lot of questions where I understood the question and I understood kind of what it's looking for, but there would be some random intricacy that I just didn't memorize. And those questions were super scary because I had to whittle it down to 2 answers and then make an educated guess on some of those questions. But there were also a lot of questions where I was like, oh, I totally know this one. This one is easy. Like, it's definitely going to be XYZ. So a lot of good and a lot of bad questions, and just had no idea like how I did after I finished. So I don't have like a intricate testing strategy I used while I took it. Honestly, I just took it like a test. I went through the questions the first time, answered them to the best of my ability. If there were questions I wasn't sure about, I'd flag them and then go back to the flagged ones at the end. I know some people have these really fancy strategies they use where they do a super quick run through the first time and then go back, but I just kind of took the test. But yeah, That's kind of everything I wanted to cover for the actual exam. So let's get into briefly what I used to study. So as I mentioned before, it took me, I think, about 6 months, give or take a few days, to study for this test to pass it on my first try. I don't have a ton of time to study during my week. I do show up to work about an hour and a half early to make sure I can get my studying done in the morning because I do work 3 jobs and my weeks are pretty jam packed between all of the activities and jobs I have. So I use mostly just the mornings to study. But the first thing I used to study was the AWS training notes by Neil Davis. I always like to start with a textbook for all of my certifications. That's what I've done, and it seems to have done well for me so far, so I'll probably keep doing it. After that, I went ahead and watched the A Cloud Guru training course and took their practice tests. I think I watched that course twice, if I'm not mistaken. So went through that, and then I did some reading and heard that the A Cloud course was not difficult enough, or it wasn't, I guess, adequate for this exam. I personally have to agree with that. I won't go into in-depth why right now, but it was a little bit on the easier side. Following that up, I took, I think it's Stefan Marek's course, and watched through that, I think, twice as well, and then listened to that course whenever I had time. If I was like detailing a car or something, I would throw the course on and just listen to it in the background. So listened to that and then took those practice tests as well. Those were pretty awesome. I highly recommend those. Once again, won't go in depth as to why, but great practice test from Stefan. After that, I went ahead and took the Tutorials Dojo practice tests, and those were pretty good as well. I did take both Stefan's and the Tutorials Dojo tests multiple times and scored, I think, around 70% on my first go around. So after scoring those fairly high, I took the official practice test by Amazon. They have one on their, I think, Learning Hub is what it's called. They have an official Solutions Architect practice test, and I did end up passing that on the first go around with it's like a 76 or 77, I'm pretty sure. So at that point, I was like, okay, I feel fairly ready to study for this, but I was still super nervous. I don't have a lot of confidence in my test taking abilities, so I scheduled it for a month out. I gave myself an additional month after I thought I was fairly ready. So in those last 4 weeks, I went ahead and made these guys, and these are a collection of practice questions that I got wrong from Stefan's course, Tutorials Dojo, and the official practice test by AWS. And that's, I have no idea how many questions that is combined, but it is hundreds. So I took all the ones I got incorrect and wrote them down and made myself type out the correct answer, the incorrect answer, and why I got that question incorrect. So you can see here, these are nice. They're highlighted and everything, so I have like pages of these. I think it's like a 50-page pamphlet. I actually had to split it into 3 different sections because the stapler at work could not handle all the pages at once. So I went ahead and did this. This was awesome. Really helped me understand why I got some questions right and then why I got some questions wrong, and kind of narrowed down my weak points. So highly recommend doing that for this exam. After that, I went ahead and made these guys. These were fun. I don't know if my camera will focus on this. And these are these questions right here. So out of all my practice tests I did, all of the incorrect questions, I took them and not only typed out the correct answer and incorrect answer and reason why, I also made pictures and very, very shortened down versions of these questions and a picture to go along with it. Like this one is a highly available Bastion host question, and just kind of went through and made super brief note cards for myself, just to review what I was weak on one more time. So I think that covers everything I used to study. I'm sure I'm forgetting something that I use, but I'll make another video going over it again in more details. With all that being covered, I think that's all I have for you guys today. Once again, if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and drop a comment. I do respond to pretty much all of my comments, so go ahead and leave one and I will absolutely reply. If you do want to continue to follow my journey, go ahead and subscribe, because I do have arguably more exciting news than passing this test coming up. I need to make a full video on it. I just haven't quite had the time to do so. But if you're curious about that, subscribe and I will get that video out probably later next week. So thank you guys for watching. Have a great rest of your week. See you around.